Hello, and welcome to the Sound Up Seattle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Seattle and Washington sports. I'm your host, Tyler Cartwright, joined as always by my co-host,
John Carey.
And we are here today breaking down what was an exciting win, that's for sure, by the Seahawks. There was a lot going on in that game. We'll break that down. We'll break down this upcoming week against the Cardinals. We've got some value dogs. We've got some college football. Everything under the sun. There's been a lot going on in Seattle sports. So we'll dive into it. John, anything to say before we get started?
No, let's dive in.
All right, here is some Coyote Picnic. All right, John. We said it in the open. The Seahawks. I'm just gonna say a weird win. Like they were down at halftime in this game, and I really thought that they did not deserve to win. Run me through your thought process as this game was going along.
Yeah, messy game. Turnovers, special teams mistakes. Yeah, it's honestly kind of hard to describe. I mean, they were down 14-0 to the Jets after the first quarter. Managed to crawl their way all the way back in, took the lead in the fourth quarter. It's like, okay, they're going to walk away with it. And then almost gave up a game-winning drive to Mr. Rogers and the Jets. So, got to take the win. You got to be happy with that. But there's a lot to discuss about, how this one kind of came apart.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to the wire, the Seahawks were able to get the win. Their special teams is really what kind of threw them off in this game. They had the two fumbled returns. Not even really returns. They just fumbled the punts. And then they had they gave up a kickoff return touchdown, I believe, as well. Like it was just a mess on the special team side of things. I think we could talk about the offense a little bit. Geno was solid. Kenneth Walker, 16 carries for 49 yards. Zach Charbonnet actually had a pretty decent game, 4 carries for 28 yards and a touchdown. So one of Zach Charbonnet's best games since Kenneth Walker's been back, I think. I think he had a really just nice spread. And I think, we spread the ball out well and did what we had to do when it came down to it. This was... There's really no other way to put it. It was just ugly. Like Ernest Jones and Julian Love had really good games defensively, as they have for the last little bit. I really think this was a big Julian Love game. He was just kind of there was a play. It was like 4th and 26, and Aaron Rodgers checks it down to Garrett Wilson, and Reek Woolen is like not really pressing that hard to get him out of bounds, and they end up with 24 yards, and they end up with a easy 4th and 2, and they're able to convert. And that, they were lucky that the Jets failed to convert that drive into a touchdown late in the game. But that's like Julian Love was in Reek Woolen's ear during that segment of the game, and that was just good to see, like leadership on the defensive side of the football and seeing where that's coming from, because I feel like it's been a little questionable over the last few years as a Seahawks fan. So it's nice to see that they are kind of getting each other going a little bit.
Yeah, getting fired up. And, good job calling out Julian Love. He had an exceptional game. I think the other guy that was just unbelievable was Devon Witherspoon. He's really been ascending over the course of the last 2 years. And, man, dude, just an absolute problem. In terms of a coverage guy, it's pretty rare to see. And it's the Jalen Ramsey type. Pretty rare to see a DB that can be as effective as he is in coverage and also blitz as effectively as he does. And that's always something people kind of take advantage about or don't think about with Jalen Ramsey, is that obviously he's an awesome corner, but he's also like one of the best corners ever at getting to the cornerback on DB blitzes, which, teams he's on always seem to run because he's so good at them. And Witherspoon is the same way. He's shifty, he's fast, he's got a nose for the football. So he had an awesome game. I was really impressed. And between him and Love, not since the Legion of Boom have we had a secondary with this much like top end talent. And they do right now. So that's really exciting. Yeah, it's worth noting they gave up 21 points to the Jets, but only one of those was a sustained touchdown drive. The other two were, shorter drives set up by mistakes. So yeah, just kind of a wacky game. Defense was excellent. Offense was all over the place, and a ton of chaos on the field. But yeah, happy to walk out there with a W. It was certainly looking at several points in the game like it was going to go the other way.
Yeah, one other guy that I do want to shout out real quick, late in the game, he was very impactful, was Leonard Williams. He got to the quarterback twice late and was just had 3 tackles for loss in this game. Like, he was just a monster late in the game and really capitalized on those matchups that he had on the line. And he
also had the 92-yard pick six.
Yeah, a 92-yard pick six as well.
Big man.
But a guy we picked up in a second-round trade from the Giants last trade deadline, and I think we extended him at this offseason, or maybe we signed him as a free agent. I'm not 100% sure. But he's been a big pickup for this defensive line that we've been talking about needs to be better. Since the start of the season, we were like, Byron Murphy's the big addition. Leonard Williams was questionable as to how big of an impact he was going to have. If he continues to do the things that he's been doing, there's good things to come for the Seahawks defense, and they're really looking like they're rounding into form under Mike Macdonald right now.
Yep, 100%. Well said. Yeah, we kind of buried the lead on that one. I think, obviously, Leonard Williams was the most impactful defensive player of the game, but everyone was talking about the Leonard Williams, kind of revenge game. So we shouldn't have left him out completely, but I think we were both trying to call out other guys who were doing awesome things. Yeah, he was unbelievable. Offensively, Geno was okay. No interceptions thrown, which is nice to see. He only threw the ball 31 times, which is kind of strange. Partially because of game plan and partially just because of plays. Seahawks only had, 52 offensive snaps? So, pretty low in terms of an average game. But, he did what he needed, 206 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker, again, struggling. 16 carries for 49 yards. He has not been effective since, week 4. Like, he got hurt, and since he's come back, he is not putting up any real numbers. I'm not even sure you can blame that on Kenneth. I think this offensive line is just paper mache at this point.
Yeah, I think some of the time of possession and number of plays, you can attribute that to the Seahawks muffing and fumbling 2 punts, and so they just missed those 2 possessions, and they were set back pretty heavily in that first half. And again, lucky that they were able to come back. But yeah, Kenneth Walker, you've been mentioning it the last few weeks, and he's on a couple of my fantasy teams, so I feel like he has value because he'll always get a touchdown or a couple receptions and things like that. But this game specifically, 16 carries for 49 yards is like 3 yards a carry, and then he had 2 receptions for -3 yards. So he just didn't really do anything this game, which is fine. We had JSN, he went 4 receptions for 74 yards and DK for 66. So we had a nice spread, but it really was not the Kenneth Walker show. And this offense
picked up a little bit of that slack, but not much.
And this offense really did not perform. They scored 19 points, all things considered. Like they had the obviously interception return for a touchdown. They only scored 19. This offense has yet to score more than 20 points in a long time. Especially if you're looking at the defensive touchdowns that the Seahawks have been able to get. This offense is not as potent of an offense as we thought it was early on in the season. So something to note here, as we move along through the remainder of the schedule.
Yeah, nice to see Jason Myers was effective 2 for 2, long 54, doing his job kicking the football. So but besides him, consistency on the offensive side of the ball has been a bit of a struggle. Geno, I'm always harsh. I'm always rough on Geno. I think it can't be overstated, the offensive line he's playing behind. It's not the easiest situation there. So appreciate him doing what needs to be done. That drive with 5 minutes left to put him up 26-21 was a big drive, and he made some really timely throws on it to get the Seahawks back in front. Crazy. And then, honestly, the Jets offense for putting up 21 points, 1 kickoff return for a touchdown, 1 stunted drive, and then 1 nice sustained touchdown drive. The defense played really good against them.
Yeah.
I was so frustrated. It really looked like the Jets were going to win at the end. I was like, how do you guys play them so well all game and then give up the classic Aaron Rodgers drive to end the game? But they managed to reel it back in and get that final stop. So, a good game, a crazy game, kind of crazy enough it's hard to really talk about in any meaningful projecting way. But something that doesn't have to be projected, something that's very simple, is that the Seattle Seahawks were the only team in the NFC West to win a game this week, which has given them some much-needed separation from the pack. They're now a full game ahead of both the Cardinals and the Rams. Good thing. They needed it. They needed it bad.
Yeah, I want to touch on one more thing with this game is they go 5 penalties for 50 yards again. That's still a good mark. Like 50 yards in penalties is actually a good number, all things considered. The Jets go 12 penalties for 83 yards in this game. They were all over the place and disorganized a little bit. The Seahawks...
Well, they were just interfering left and right. On that last Seahawks drive, they converted 2 fourth downs on penalties.
Yep. It was a problem, and I think the Seahawks have really tightened up recently, except for these, gameplay miscues, which are different than penalties. They had the fumbles and things like that. But in terms of the coaching and the issues that we talked about 3 weeks ago, that seems like it's really done its fair share, and we've tightened it up for sure. Talking about this NFC West matchup, or not matchup, but NFC West as things have shaken out, it's really big to get this 1-game lead over the Cardinals and the Rams. This is like a scary portion of the schedule right now. The Seahawks play the Cardinals this upcoming week, and the Cardinals then have a pretty cake schedule the remainder of the season. I think they play like the Patriots and a few of just like the worst teams in football. And the Seahawks obviously have a couple games against the NFC North, and it's just not looking the best right now. Let me pull up their schedules because I'm just rattling off things.
I've got it right here.
Perfect.
The Cardinals play us, then they play the Patriots and Panthers, which is, those are two teams, especially in, weeks 15 and 16, that should be actively trying to lose as, the number 1 overall pick in the draft is still very much up for grabs. So that is quite convenient. But their other games are against the Rams and the Niners, so they still got 3 NFC North or West games, and then 2 cakewalks compared to the Seahawks, 3 NFC West games I'm sorry, 2 NFC West games and 3 brutal matchups with the absolute gauntlet of the NFC North. So, Cardinals have. You can almost flip it. You can give Cardinals 2 wins right now, and that puts them a half a game ahead of the Seahawks. So they have to outplay the Cardinals going down the stretch. Good news is, with 1 win already over the Cardinals, if they can secure this win this week, which is going to be huge, they'll have the tiebreaker. And that'll make it a lot harder for the Cardinals to jump them with only 5 weeks left.
Yes, and I think something to point out, we talked about this before the season started, this Seahawks win total. We were not expecting them to be in play to fight for the NFC West, Do you think the NFC West is like a 10-win division, or do you think it's going to be 9 that takes it? Like if the Seahawks and Cardinals end up with 9 wins apiece and the Seahawks win that tiebreaker, do you think that's going to do it, or do you think they need 10?
Absolutely not. They absolutely need 10. There's too much talent in this division. Rams and Cardinals both have 6 wins. One of them is going to win 3 games. I guess I shouldn't say 9 is possible, but I would be surprised. 1, I think the Seahawks will win 3 of the next 5. I think they're rounding into form at the perfect time. And some of these games will be less important to other teams than they are to the Seahawks. And 2, if that doesn't happen, I think the chance of either the Cardinals or the Rams winning 4 out of the next 5 is not unheard of, especially with a schedule like the Cardinals have. They basically need to win 2 out of the next 3 to end up at 10 wins, and I think they can do that. I guess I'm talking myself out a little bit. 9 or 10 wins will be the line. Nobody's getting to 11, I can't imagine. No. It's a deep conference in a pretty deep NFC right now is a big part of that. Not as easy to stack up a lot of wins like it is in the AFC.
Yeah, I think the AFC is way more top heavy, and then you've got the teams really fall off once you get past 6 teams or so. And then the NFC is like pretty averagely good, and a couple great teams in the Eagles and the Lions.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, man, these Seahawks have been confusing this year. I'm sure you've heard the expression "a tale of 2 halves." This season has been a tale of 3/3. They started the season 3-0, continued to lose 5 of their next 6 games, and have now won their last 3. So they're 3-0, then 1-5, and then 3-0 again. Just a a very strange way for a team to get to 7-5. Hopefully, that middle of the season slump was some defensive growing pains. And the 6-0 sample size that I would like to reflect their season is actually more representative of who they are. We will see going forward. This upcoming game against the Cardinals, December 8th, is going to be huge. It's going to be massive. Obviously, they're the second favorite to win the West behind the Seahawks. If they take that game, they will tie up the season series, and they have a better divisional record than we do. So if they win this game, it flips on its head. They have the tiebreaker, and we would need to beat them outright. So, honestly, probably the biggest game of the remaining 5, because it's not only you need the wins, but it would be such a blow to lose to them, or such a blow to them if we win, in terms of getting the tiebreaker, which is like an extra win, essentially.
Yeah, I think we could take this moment then, I guess, to dive right into this game. How are we feeling? Looking ahead, Cardinals are favored by 2.5 points. I guess it was the Seahawks by 1.5 the last time these guys played 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts coming into this week?
Well, the good news is we played them 2 weeks ago and beat them 16-6. So, yeah, pretty recent history. I don't think anybody in their locker room can say, we've changed so much since we played them. It's not like one of those week 3 and week 15 matchups. Bad news is they looked much more competent against the Vikings offensively. And the Vikings have been, statistically the best defense in the NFL this season. They've only put up 6 against us. They put up a competent 22 against the Vikings, and only a very, last minute of the game drive by Sam Darnold was able to pull out the victory for the Vikings. So I was very impressed. Kyler threw a couple of picks, but still threw for 260 yards. Their ground game got going again. James Conner was able to effectively run the ball, which he was not able to do against us. And, Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. continue to be very effective, dynamic 1 and 2 at receiver and tight end, respectively. So yeah, I guess I feel good. I can't look at a team that we just beat pretty soundly and say, I think we're going to lose. But if I was going to set the line, I'd probably set it at Hawks minus 2.5. I don't think I'd give the Cardinals 3. And I don't, that's not the case with the current line.
Yeah, I think, to me, this feels like if I was setting the line, I would put it at a pick'em, purely because the success that the Cardinals had against us was so lackluster. Like you said, James Conner was pretty abysmal in that game, and it's hard to attribute that to anything but a bad game. James Conner's been so good for so long. It's like that doesn't really make sense. That felt like a pretty decent outlier. But McBride, on the other hand, had a great game against us. So it's just like, where are the Cardinals going to find that balance that they were looking for in that week when they played the Seahawks? Or is the Seahawks defense going to be able to capitalize again? Because Harrison Jr. didn't really have as a huge impact. Obviously the Cardinals scored 6 points against the Seahawks, so great defensive outing. But at the same time, the Seahawks offense wasn't really doing anything spectacular. They need to do more, I think, because we would expect this Cardinals team to score 20 points against us. I don't think we can look at this week and say, oh yeah, we're going to hold the Cardinals to 14 points. That just doesn't seem reasonable to me. So the Seahawks need to be able to score. And this is in Arizona for this game, so it's a little bit different of an atmosphere. Mm-hmm. I'm a little concerned. I think I'm a little bit more concerned than I was the first time these teams played, because I thought, the Seahawks have kind of lost their chance. But after these back-to-back wins, it's like, okay, correct. This is the game.
They've done what they needed.
Yeah.
They did what we asked them to do to get our hopes back in the season, and the hopes are back. So which, I'm with you. There's more pressure on this one because last game was like, if they lose, then it's over. But now it's like, we could make this end of the season so much less agonizing if we just pull this one out. But
it's like being a Seattle sports fan,
Yeah, we'd never know anything about that. One thing to note is, obviously last game was in Seattle. 12s were out. Great atmosphere. Cardinals are significantly better at home this season. To nobody's surprise. That's kind of how it works. But they're 4-2 at home, 2-4 on the road. And both of their home losses have come to the Commanders and the Lions, two playoff-bound teams. So they play significantly better in Glendale. Yeah, this game is going to be real. I still believe in the Hawks just because the Cardinals' defense has also been playing a lot better the second half of the season. Props to them and their coaching staff. They're playing really well. But talent-wise, this Hawks defense has a lot more blue chippers. And offensively, I look at them as two fairly equivalent teams, you know. Kyler's a bit more dynamic, but he's also more mistake-prone. Our receiving core is better than theirs. Their running game's probably a little better than ours. Their line's a little better. So offensively, it's a wash. I just think we have a better defense.
Yeah, that's very fair. One thing that we didn't talk about from this last week's game against the Jets, Michael Dixon, the Seahawks punter, was dealing with back issues, I think, most of that game after the first half. And it's something that might impact this upcoming game against the Cardinals. We luckily will have some time to get everything sorted. But having a backup punter is a real issue that teams might face. And Michael Dixon's been so good for so long for the Seahawks team. He's going to be sorely missed if he's unable to get right. So that is something to be concerned about. Obviously, the mistakes for the Seahawks in the special teams came from the receiving end of the Seahawks team. But still something to keep in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. A big loss if he is not 100% or if he's not able to suit up. One of the best punters in the NFL. And yeah, talk about, it's just one of those things. You don't give it any thought at all until your punter's hurt. And then you're like, oh my God, what do we do? Can I just say, part of me wants a team that doesn't have a punter because one thing we didn't mention about the Jets game, I really, really liked the way Mike McDonald handled the Dixon situation in terms of the decision making. He grew a pair and he said, you know what, we can't count on effectively punting, so it's 4th and 5 on our own 35, but we're going to go for it because we think the odds of success on this play and the benefits of success on this play outweigh whatever we're going to get out of punting with our field goal kicker. And yeah, the aggressiveness on that last drive was kind of fueled, I think, by the fact that everyone on the field knew that they couldn't punt. And it was electric. It was fun to watch. And yeah, it probably would have been less fun to watch if they failed to convert on that 4th down, but it was fun and I enjoyed it. So maybe Dixon just needs to take a couple games off and we just go on every 4th down.
John's a fan of entertaining sports. He's not a fan of winning. He's in it for shits and giggles, for lack of a better word.
I'm here to lead, not to read.